Ice rolled in before the sun could rise, breaking down the doors, no warrant, no reply. Show me your papers, but the proof doesn't mean a thing. When your skin tells a story, they don't wanna hear you sing. They're taking babies from their mothers' arms, fathers from their workplaces, their homes and the streets. This is the land where your ancestors rest, yet they're telling you that you don't belong on these streets. Where are they taking you? This ground knows your name. 500 years and the story's still the same. They draw their lines and say you crossed to the wrong side. But how do you deport someone from their own sky? When they came at dawn, no one made a sound. Now ice has come to town. Windows shatter like promises made in the past. You must have done something, assumptions cast. But lawless times don't knock, don't wait, don't ask. They just see brown skin, and that's enough for the task. Your ID says you're home, but they call it fake. How many lives will it take before we wake? Man, woman, child, they don't discriminate and hate, just checking boxes while humanity breaks. Masks hiding their faces as they hunt their prey, filling quotas and checking boxes each day. Waiting outside schools where children should be safe, outside courthouses and hospitals, no sacred space. While you're pumping gas or walking to your car, taking aid of people, doesn't matter where you are. They don't ask questions, they've already decided. When your face is your crime, there's nowhere to hide. Where are they taking you? This ground knows your name. 500 years and the story's still the same. They draw their lines and say you crossed to the wrong side. But how do you deport someone from their own sky? When they came at dawn, no one made a sound. Now ice has come to town. Go back to your reservation, stay away as if you're strangers on the land where your ancestors lie. Your face becomes a target, your skin becomes a crime. They don't ask for your story, they don't take the time. One day the line will shift, you'll be the prey. Then you'll remember you looked away. Will you speak when they come for you? Or realize too late what silence can do? Where are they taking us? This ground knows our names. The laws are gone, but the cruelty remains. They draw their lines, keep widening them till everyone's a stranger with nowhere to hide. When they came at dawn, we made no sound. Now lawlessness wears a crown, and ice has come to town. Be careful in these times, keep your loved ones close. When humanity goes missing, we all disappear. They came for them, they'll come for you too. Don't let silence win. Silence is betrayal. Silence is betrayal. Silence is betrayal.
Live on the air, Trial Junkies United presents Justice After Dark with your host, Z.
To see you. We've got SD Surf Girl Southern Gal was first. Our lovely mods Irish, Luna Fairy, and Fala, and Semi Sharp. We're so glad you're all here, guys. Yeah, this is going to be a tough one, but a good one. because we're going to get information we need, and that's important. But we're going to start with Maria. And her name is Maria Antonio. She's 9 years old. She packed a Cruella de Vil costume in her suitcase because she and her mama had planned the most perfect trip to Disney World. She would be Cruella, her mom and stepdad would be the spotted dogs. The whole costume was so big, it practically filled her entire bag. She didn't get to wear it. Instead, immigration officers intercepted them at Miami International Airport, separated them into different rooms, questioned a 9-year-old child alone without her mother, without a lawyer, without anyone for hours. And when it was over, they put him in a cold room and flew them to South Texas. Maria Antonio looked out the window of the van and understood for the first time where they were going. Not Disneylandia, as she called it, but what she would later call Dilleylandia. She spent the next 4 months in a detention facility. She fainted twice. She stopped sleeping through the night. She drew a picture of herself and her mama wearing their government-issued detention ID badges. And in the corner of that drawing, she wrote, "Me in Dilley. I'm not happy. Please get me out of here to Colombia." That is who we are talking about tonight, not a statistic and not a policy debate, not an immigration number, a 9-year-old girl who just wanted to go to Disney World or Disneylandia, as she called it. Hey, Therapist thanks for joining us. I'm Z, the storyteller, and my ride or die doc is riding shotgun as we navigate the darkness where the predators hunt and the system has totally failed. And tonight we're going to talk about what's happening to the children, the actual children in the United States immigration detention system. Right now in 2026, because the mainstream media isn't giving it the headlines, we're giving you their names and we're giving you the truth that they are counting on you not knowing. Rights of undocumented immigrants in the U.S. Constitution system that we have set up here. And we're going to talk about the silence because not enough people are hearing what's happening. Because they do have rights. They have the right to due process, protection from unreasonable searches, the right to remain silent, and the right to an attorney. During an ICE encounter, they can stay silent. They can refuse to open their door without a signed judicial warrant and request legal counsel. At work, they cannot be discriminated based on their national origin. These are undocumented children are entitled to free kindergarten through 12th public education and emergency medical care. They cannot be denied on their status. There are key limitations that may face expedited removal, such as if they're caught near the border. They can be expedited right away. They're not allowed to vote in federal elections or hold public office. Don't use fraudulent documents. Those are serious consequences. But the bottom line is undocumented immigrants have significant legal protections. And that's what we're talking about tonight, because these protections, they're not getting them. And that's the sad part. Are you ready for this one, Doc?
I'm always ready.
I know you are, darling. So let's get started. We're going to talk about Dilley. That is the family residential center in Dilley, Texas. It's about 70 miles southwest of San Antonio. It's a sprawling complex of trailers, dormitories surrounded by tall fences, almost the same color as the dusty landscape. It actually was built under President Obama's administration to handle a surge of families crossing the border. Of course, President Biden shut it down in 2021, saying America shouldn't be in the business of detaining children. The new administration, they've opened it back up. Hey, OnlyFan, good to see you, sweetheart. Right now, Dilley holds more than 1,400 people, more than half of whom are minors. Since the facility reopened last spring, they've had more than 3,500 people, and that's more than the entire population of the town of Dilley have cycled through these gates. And let me tell you what they found on the other side. There have been reports of worms in the food, mold on the meals, foul smelling water, which according to one 12-year-old that was detained there, it seems to make people sick. She wrote, "The only thing the doctor tells you is to drink more water. And the worst thing is that it seems the water is what makes people sick here." Fluorescent lights that never fully go dark, metal bunk beds in rooms shared with a dozen or more strangers, children getting sick over and over with limited, delayed, or outright denied medical care. A 9-year-old girl with leukemia was detained with her family. She had little to no access to her cancer treatments until attorneys finally got her out. A 5 to 7-year-old child who had 3 seizures in one day, they had to call emergency crews. A 13-year-old with a potential leg fracture, emergency crews called again. A 22-month-old whose blood oxygen dropped to 80%, well below the safe threshold of 90%. Emergency crews wanted to helicopter him to San Antonio, but the weather wouldn't allow it. That's how desperate the emergency crew was. But the emergency crews have been called to Dilley at least 11 times since September alone for children in medical distress. Yes. And let's talk about Juan. Juan Nicholas, he's 2 months old. He has spent nearly half of his life inside Dilley. His mother says he spent days vomiting, days struggling to breathe, and then at 3 a.m., he was choking on his own vomit. And then there was no doctor available. No doctor available. Over 1,400 people, and you have no doctors available at 3 in the morning for a choking infant. He was eventually rushed to the hospital by ambulance. He was diagnosed with bronchitis, serious respiratory issues, and his condition had been, according to facility staff, monitored until it became a life or death emergency. They couldn't find him after he came back from the hospital and they sent him back to the facility. No one knew where the baby was or his parents. The reporter finally traced them over the border. You heard me. They deported the entire family in the middle of the night. Despite Congressman Joaquin Castro and his attorneys actively fighting for them, ICE's response on social media, well, the mother chose to take her child into custody with her and entered the country illegally. They blamed the mother for her 2-month-old choking in the dark. And Juan wasn't the first. Hey, Sleuthy sweetheart. So, yeah, instead of taking responsibility, making sure this child was okay, the doctors were very concerned. They shipped him out because they didn't want to be held responsible.
Yeah, they can't have
the bear
dying on their part, on their watch. So
yeah, it's not going to happen on their watch. You're right, Doc. Totally. But let's talk about Amelia, because before Juan, there was Amelia. She's the that's Juan right there, little Juan, 2 months old. Now he's over the border. And his family, they don't have anything because their lives got disrupted. This is little Amelia. She's 18 months old. She was taken to the San Antonio hospital after developing COVID-19, RSV, pneumonia, and bronchitis. Her mother, Kaylin, said medical staff at Dilley gave them ibuprofen and sent them back for 2 weeks while the baby's breathing worsened. Amelia was malnourished. She was vomiting up everything she ate. After 10 days in the hospital, Amelia was sent back to Dilley, back into ICE custody. These aren't accidents. This is the standard operating procedure of a for-profit system. And what we're going to get into exactly is who's running the system and exactly who is profiting from it very shortly tonight. Because these are names we all need to know. Oh, I'm sure, SD Surf Girl, I'm sure there's lots of roaches. These places were not meant for people to live long term. Now, let me tell you about the children who are still there, because they've actually spoken for themselves. Thanks to ProPublica, reporters got inside Dilley and asked the parents whether their kids would write letters about what it's like. More than 36 children responded. Some drew pictures, rainbows, family portraits, hearts. Some wrote in perfect cursive. Some had beautiful, urgent misspellings of children who were terrified. Now, the first little one is Susie Fernandez. She's 9 years old, from Venezuela. She said, 50 days in Dilley, she wrote. Seeing how people like me, immigrants, are treated changes my perspective on the U.S. My mom and I came to the U.S. looking for a safe and good place to live. That's what a 9-year-old wrote. Yeah. Ariana Velaquez, she's 14. She was from Honduras. She had lived in Hicksville, New York for 7 years before her and her mother went to a routine ICE check-in, one they had done for years. So she's following the rules. They were doing what they were supposed to, paying their taxes, having jobs, following the rules, going for a check-in. And were picked up and put on a plane to Texas by that evening without being allowed to call their family. She left behind a 5-year-old brother who started talking to the kitchen security camera every day, hoping his mother would answer him. Just think about that. A 5-year-old looking at the kitchen security camera and talking to it, thinking that his mama could see him. Hey, Katrina, so happy you're here. Hey, Sailor. Cap, good to see you. So Ariana wrote, since I got to the center, all you will feel is sadness and mostly depression. All kids are being mentally damaged. They witness how they've been treated. She finally got out. This is her after she got out, sitting in a McDonald's. She doesn't look happy. She's been traumatized. I'm sure therapists could tell us all about that. This girl's been through a lot. Now let's talk about Gustav. He's 13. He's from San Antonio, Texas. He didn't cross the border. He was detained at a border patrol checkpoint while riding in a car with his mother. He wrote, I have friends, school, and family here in the United States. To this day, I don't know what we did wrong to be detained. I feel like I'll never get out of here. I just ask, don't forget about us. A 13-year-old boy is asking us not to forget about him. That child is counting on us tonight, right now. Now, let me tell you about the family that said what many people won't say out loud. And this is Nikita and Oksan, who fled Russia, not for anything they did wrong, but because they were living under tyranny and believed America would be different. They've been in the Dilley facility for 4 months with their 3 children. Their 13-year-old, Krill, who taught himself piano, who loved music school, now spends his day withdrawn. He wakes at night with anxiety and panic attacks. Their 4-year-old, Konstantin, normally a social, happy kid, is now frightened by loud noises and the guards. He once cried for hours after a guard snatched a small toy airplane out of his hands. Yeah, let me repeat that. A guard is stealing a toy from a 4-year-old. That's hate. That's just hate. Their 12-year-old daughter, Camilla, a dancer, now has partial hearing loss in one ear from what her parents say was a poorly treated infection. And then there was Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be able to say it. They were all brought into the gym, and they saw the table was set with turkey, pastry, sandwiches, and pies. The children have been hungry for a long time in this facility, and they got excited because they're not feeding them properly. And they thought they were going to eat. They were told the food was for the employees. And then the children had to watch while the feast was packed away.
Oh, jeez.
This is happening in Texas, people. This is not a third world country. This is happening in Texas. Hey, where lavender grows. Thanks for coming. We left one Nikita said, we left one tyranny and came to another kind of tyranny. She said, even in Russia, they don't treat children like this. And now the administration has added a measles outbreak to the list. As of February 2026, at least 2 confirmed measles cases in Dilley. We're not getting any more updates on that. And Fowler's trying to catch a ride. She thinks her Uber has arrived. But measles is one of the most contagious viruses on the planet. And to have it in a crowded barrack-style facility where you have over 1,400 people breathing the same air, sleeping in the same rooms, and eating the same spaces. Dr. Lee Rogers at UT Health San Antonio wrote a letter to Texas health officials and put it in the subject line, Public Health Emergency. The measles outbreak at Dilley Detention Center will become an epidemic if we don't act immediately. He wrote, this is not a law enforcement issue. Congressman Joaquin Castro called for Dilley to be shut down immediately. I said, detainees are provided with proper medical care. Really? How many times have you had to call for emergency crews because you have nobody on staff to look after these people? You have a 13-year-old girl that has lost her hearing because you didn't treat her correctly for an ear infection. You have another little boy that got taken to the hospital because he couldn't breathe, and then another little girl. So I don't see how you were saying their properly medical care is being given. Yeah, they need to back that bus up. Meanwhile, I think you guys will probably remember 5-year-old Liam. And Liam Ramos, the little boy in the Spider-Man backpack and blue bunny hat, he went viral after being detained in Minneapolis because they used him to get his father to come out of the house. Now, he has finally been released from Dilley by a federal judge just days earlier. He appeared lethargic when the
Congressional?
Thank you, my love. When the congressional visit happened. In fact, they said he just laid in his dad's lap. His mother has said that his health has visibly deteriorated. And he was there during the measles outbreak. So has he passed it on to anybody else? And think of the people that have been deported. Are they spreading measles to foreign countries? I don't know about you, but that kind of reminds me of how they did with some of the native and indigenous people with smallpox. Gave them blankets that were infested. We have the story of the 13-year-old boy or 16-year-old boy that was picked up in Minneapolis, got shipped to Michigan. They gave him vaccines in his arms. And nobody knows what they were for. I have questions. Now, Liam, he was only 5 years old, that poor little guy. But now we're going to talk about something that's not getting nearly enough attention. And while all of this is happening at Dilley, The sick babies, the measles outbreak, and the children writing letters begging to be remembered. Another system is quietly operating somewhere else in Texas. Since July of 2025, the administration has been taking every pregnant, unaccompanied minor in federal custody from anywhere in this country and sending them all to one single shelter. That shelter is in San Benito, Texas. This policy was implemented by the acting director of the Office of Refuge Resettlement, or they call it ORR. The government agency that is responsible for protecting unaccompanied children in federal custody. In an internal email dated July 22nd of 2025, the staff were directed to send, quote, any pregnant child to San Benito. The facility is operated by a for-profit contractor, Urban Strategics, which is based in a converted Baptist church. Lisa Cummings is the founder, and president is Lauren Gonzalez, because, I feel we need to know. The executive president, Lauren Whitley, executive vice president, Melissa Aguilar, executive director, Jessica Martinez. Another executive director, is Martha Ramos Bradley. Another one is Rachel Allor. The chief operating officer is Renee Gonzalez. Then you have Juan Victor, I'm not sure, finance director. Manola Gonzalez is the human resource director. And Chris Balcos is the IT director. I mean, if they're going to be taking children, they should be famous. Since that directive, more than a dozen pregnant minors have been placed there. Some of them are as young as 13 years old. Let it sink in.
13 and
At least half of them became pregnant as a result of SA. 7 sources inside the Office of Refuge Resettlement, or OR, spoke to investigators. All 7 declined to be named because they're afraid of retaliation from their own administration. One source said this group of kids is clearly recognized as the most vulnerable. The staff are losing sleep over it, wondering whether kids will be placed in programs where they won't have access to the care they need. Another said, I feel like we're just waiting for something terrible to happen. This directive was put in place over the explicit objections of the government's own health and child welfare officials. Officials who told investigators there are dozens of OR shelters across the country, 14 in California alone, that are specifically equipped to handle high-risk pregnancies for young girls. All of those better equipped shelters are located in regions where the full range of medical care is available. The leadership was handed a list of these shelters, and they ignored it, and they sent the children to San Benito anyway. And here's what medical experts are saying about what happens when a 13-year-old SA survivor has a complicated pregnancy in this facility. The specialized obstetric care available in Texas is largely concentrated in larger cities, hours away from San Benito. The region is already among the most medically underserved in the entire state. Many doctors who could help are simply not there. In fact, many OBs are leaving Texas because they're not able to give the proper care to their patients. Adolescents face far greater pregnancy risks than adult women. Their bodies are still developing. They're more likely to give birth early. Complications during labor and delivery are more common because their pelvises aren't fully formed. Add to that the trauma that these girls have already endured. Many have had little or no prenatal care. Many are malnourished, carry infections that went untreated during their journey. Dr. Blair Cushing, who runs a women's health clinic about 45 minutes from San Benito, said, "You couldn't set up a worse scenario. I'm kind of blown away by the level of risk they're concentrating in this facility. Government officials said Orr temporarily barred this shelter from accepting pregnant girls as recently as 2024 because staff were failing to arrange timely medical appointments and discharging girls without a plan for continued care. Think about that. They were barred from allowing these girls. So why choose Texas? I'll let you think about that. The plan that followed did not add staff or enhance their qualifications. Then the administration made it the only place in the country where pregnant minors in federal custody are sent. One official said it's cruel. It's just cruel. They don't care about any of these kids. They're playing politics with children's health. Because if one of them has an ectopic pregnancy, we don't know if they'll get care, and that can happen. And I need to ask the questions nobody's asking out loud. These girls, some as young as 13, are pregnant because they were SA'd. Someone committed a serious federal crime against these children. Where's the investigation? Where are the charges? Who is being held accountable for what was done to them? Was this done while they were already in custody? I'll ask. We have to. And the babies. What happens to the infants being born inside that facility? Who is tracking them? Who is responsible for their welfare? Are they counted? Are they named? Or are they like so many others caught in this system simply invisible? Is the administration now trafficking in babies? I mean, they're trafficking in children anyway, because they're shipping them all over the country. Because once a person enters one of these places, they're supposed to be given what they call an A number, so family can track you down. But with that young 16-year-old that was recently picked up in Minneapolis, they shipped him to Michigan and changed his A number, so he took a long time to find him. They're playing games with children's lives. They're trafficking them. And I want to put some people on notice because none of this is happening without names attached. None of this happens without someone getting paid. So let's talk about who gets paid for all this. Because nobody's really talking about it. The facility running Dilley is operated by a company called CoreCivic. They describe themselves as a diversified government solutions company. They say their employees are driven by a deep sense of service and a responsibility to better the public good. That's what they say. Here's what the record shows, though, and that's important. CoreCivic was founded in 1983 under the name Corrections Corporation of America. There were two co-founders, and you need to know exactly who these men were because the roots of the company tell you everything about what it is today. The first was Tom Beasley, the one with the red tie. He's an attorney, a graduate of Vanderbilt Law School, a former chairman of the Tennessee Republican Party, a man with deep political connections, including to then Senator Lamar Alexander, whose wife was an early investor in the company, of course. Beasley described what they were building in his own words. He said the goal was to solve the prison problem and make a lot of money at the same time.
Emphasis on money making.
Yeah. You're right, Doc. The emphasis was on the money. They didn't talk about rehabilitating people, not to serve justice, to make money. Because they've taken over a lot of prisons too. And truthfully, we need to even treat the prisoners better because if they're getting this kind of service too, that's wrong. How you treat the worst of your society tells a lot about you. And so it's not good. Now, the second founder was T. Don Hutto. And let me tell you, he is a piece of work. He is deceased now, but he was a prison warden, and not just any prison warden. Before co-founding CoreCivic, D. Hutton was the warden of Ramsey Prison Farm in southeastern Texas. And I need you to understand, Ramsey, it was a plantation. It was one of the 10 plantations the state of Texas purchased between 1899 and 1918, after the Civil War ended, and the planters suddenly found themselves without enslaved people to work the fields. So they found their solution in the 13th Amendment, the one that abolished slavery with one exception, one carved out, one loophole that has never been closed. Slavery and involuntary servitude shall not exist in the United States except as punishment for a crime. So Texas leased its black prisoners to private cotton plantations for 5 decades after the Civil War. You got it. They were just sending the people out there. Then the state grew greedy and bought the plantations itself and ran them as prisons. Now, T. Don Hutto became the warden of Ramsey's in 1967, more than 100 years after the Civil War. Ramsey was larger than Manhattan, you guys. We're talking 15,000 prisoners worked its fields. Men picked cotton under a quota. And punishment for not making weight, the whip, had been banned, but the denial of food had not. And a 4x8 concrete cell with a hole in the floor had not. Prisoners were hung in shackles from cell bars by their wrists, toes barely touching the ground for hours, while other inmates filed past on their way to the mess hall. And this is where Hutto learned how to run a prison. Then he went to Arkansas, and I think it was the Turner prison. And oh boy, he had fun there. I mean, he literally had them working on his home, and the cruelty just got worse, So according to the historical record, he learned, and quote, how to think about prison as a money-making venture. Corners could always be cut to service, the bottom line. A few years after leaving the plantation and then Arkansas, he and Beasley applied that lesson to build Corrections Corporations of America. I had a good drink, man. Which you can find today on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol CXW. This is important, you guys. CXW. If you have a portfolio in the stock market, I'd be checking to make sure I don't have any CXW on there. They rebranded the company as CoreCivic in 2016, but the ticker never changed. It's still CXW. So the business model never changed. Now, there was a journalist named Sam Bauer, and he went undercover as a guard at CoreCivic back in Louisiana in 2014, documenting how the profit motive drove systematic neglect and violence, conditions he witnessed. He said he watched an inmate lose both legs to gangrene after months of ignored medical requests. Outside medical care was avoided because the company bore the cost. Educational programs were cut to save money. Only 24 guards paid $9 an hour managed 1,500 inmates. Think about that. 24 guards. The prison logged 200 weapons in 4 months, 23 times more than the state's max security facility. A mentally ill inmate died by self-deletion at 71 pounds after the prison failed to provide adequate mental health care. The corporate mindset guards were explicitly trained not to intervene in fights, to simply just shout, "Hey, stop fighting." Yeah, that goes real well. protecting the company from liability while keeping staff safe on the cheap. The stated goal was to deliver value to the shareholders. The bigger picture, Bauer connects modern private prisons to historical convict leasing and plantation labor systems, arguing that the executives removed from the reality of their facilities. They convince themselves they serve the public good while primarily serving their bottom line. A 2016 DOJ study confirmed that private prisons are consistently more violent than public ones. So our takeaway, when punishment becomes a profit center, the humanity of incarcerated people becomes an operating expense to be minimized. And Bauer wrote a book called American Prison, a reporter's undercover journey into the business of punishment. You might want to check it out. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But let's draw a straight line here from the plantation to the prison farm to the Corrections Corporation of America to CoreCivic, Dilley, Texas. In 2026, where children are in cages, worms are in the food, babies are choking in the dark, and the company's ICE-related revenue was up 17% last quarter. Nearly $177 million in a single quarter. Think about that. The names change, the business model does not. Captive human beings, corners cut to protect the bottom line, profit extracted from suffering. And it comes from 1865 all the way to today. Where lavender grows, you're right. Yeah. Well, and that's why I have concerns about some of these religious organizations that are getting into handling children for the immigrants. How many of them, because the one they sent that 16-year-old boy to in Michigan, in 2023, they had people that they had to fire for SAing children and also for torturing them. Yeah, great places. CoreCivic is traded on the New York Stock Exchange, like I said, with CXW as the ticker symbol. And when the new administration won their re-election in 2024, see, CoreCivic's, their money had gone down. But the minute they won, oh man, stock soared because Wall Street understood immediately that more detentions, more bodies in bed means more profit. Their two largest shareholders are BlackRock, who is approximately 16% of the company, and Vanguard Group, approximately 12%. And I need to do some digging on those two groups. BlackRock and Vanguard, two of the largest investment firms on the planet. They are profiting from worms in the food of children. They are profiting from the fluorescent lights that never go dark. They're profiting from a 2-month-old baby choking on his own vomit in the middle of the night with no doctor on staff. And here's the part that most people don't understand. These companies don't get paid when someone gets deported. They get paid by the bed, by the day. Every single day that a human body is inside one of these facilities, the federal government cuts them a check. Think about that. The Department of Homeland Security has estimated the cost at approximately $157 per person per day for adults. Do the math. Deport someone on day one, you make 1 day's money. Hold them for 6 months, you make 180 days of money. Hold them for 8 months, like the Solomon children at Dilley, who have celebrated every single birthday inside that facility, you make nearly 250 days of money per person per bed. That's not a detention system. That's revenue system.
That's a money-making operation.
Yeah. They're trafficking in children's lives and people's lives. All of these facilities. This is trafficking. And the bodies filling these beds, they're the product. Like you said, Doc, it's money making. It is just a money-making racket.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
there's a situation where they don't want to deport them because they lose their money stream.
Exactly. Because think about it. These are supposed to be centers where people are supposed to get deported, right? So why are some of them there 8 months, 6 months? It doesn't take that long to deport them. The only reason they would hold them is because, like Southern Gal said, the almighty dollar.
Yep.
Exactly right. It's all it's about. So they're playing with people's lives. And they're even picking up US citizens because they have a quota. They have a number. They're supposed to pick up at least 3,000 people a day. A day. That's why you're seeing these US citizens getting picked up, because if you fit their idea of what you look like, guess what? You're getting picked up. If you have brown skin, if you talk with an accent, if you speak Spanish, and that's all due to the Kavanaugh stop. Remember, Judge Kavanaugh said it was okay to stop people without having a reason.
It gives racial profiling a new meaning.
Exactly. And that's what they've gone back to. And so, and I mean, there are other nationalities. I mean, like the Russian family, they were white, but they were from a foreign country. They had a woman from Ireland that got picked up that had lived in the United States for, I mean, we're talking 30, 40 years. So they're trying to fill quotas. What happened to we're going to get the worst of the worst? Because I'll be the first to say, anybody with bad criminal records and that come here to commit crimes against people, yeah, get rid of them. We don't want them. But you take someone that's been here 20 years, that has been going to their check-ins, has been trying to get citizenship, is paying their taxes, holding a job. I don't think people realize what's going to happen when these people, because these people pay their taxes. And the money is going out the window because they're losing everything. So just think about that, because then it's going to come on the rest of us, because our taxes will have to go up because they have to even that out. So this is why they're picking up anybody they can get their hands on. A 5-year-old in a Spider-Man backpack gets detained at his home in Minneapolis. This is why a mother gets grabbed while driving her disabled son off at school. This is why families are being pulled off buses at Border Patrol checkpoints, not at the border, at the checkpoints before the border. They are taking them. Because it does not matter if you're an active asylum, have an active asylum case. It doesn't matter if you're a pending green card. It does not matter if you have been living here for 7 years and your children are American citizens. If you look like you might be an immigrant, you're a potential revenue source. And here's what everyone in the audience needs to hear. It doesn't stop at the immigrants. United States citizens, like I said, have been detained by ICE. Right now, there's one that has a lawsuit going. He was one of the military. He was a military man that they held him for over 3 days. They sprayed him with pepper spray and wouldn't let him wash it out. And he suffered for 3 days. So the gardener that was picked up in California has 3 sons that serve as Marines in the U.S. He finally got released, but it's been months. And when they take these people, they leave their vehicles behind with windows broke out, just keys left in the car. They lose. If they finally do get released, they lose so much because they've lost jobs. They may have lost their vehicle. I saw one TikTok of a guy that was picking up a woman, and he had her and one of her daughters, but he wanted the other one out of the house. And the reason I'm suspicious of him is because he didn't have a mask on and he kept asking for that little girl to come out. And my question is why? What kind of a dude are you that you're so determined to get another little girl? And this is what we need to worry about. And this has been happening and it will continue to happen because the system is built on filling beds. It's not going to slow to carefully verify paperwork. Alligator Alcatraz, how many hundreds have disappeared and nobody knows where they're at? They said, well, they could be at another facility. We don't know. Nobody is telling us. It was found at Alligator Alcatraz. They were chaining people up outside in a cell-like container with their limbs stretched out. That's not humanity. That's cruelty. These people that are running these facilities, there is something seriously wrong. And so if you're brown, if you're black, if you have an accent, if you live in a neighborhood where ICE is operating, and if you can immediately produce documentation that satisfies an agent in the field, you could spend time in one of these facilities. Not because you crossed a border, not because you committed a crime, but because your bed with your body in it is worth $157 a day to a publicly traded corporation whose stock went up. That's the system. This is what your tax dollars are funding. And that's what's so wrong about this. And I want you just to think about that, what these people are going through. But let's meet some people because, I just feel like we should know who these guys are. This is the CEO of CoreCivic. His name is Patrick D. Swindle.
Swindle.
Swindle. S-W-I-N-D-E-L-E.
Good.
He became the president or the CEO, president and chief executive officer as of January 1st of 2026. He brings more than 18 years of experience at the company. He's worked there for 18 years, having previously served in key roles, including executive vice president, chief operating officer. The chairman of the board, though, is Mr. Mark A. Emkes. It's E-M-K-E-S. Not sure how you pronounce that. Emkes? He's the guy in the blue suit. On the board since 2014. He became the chairman of the board in 2016. And then he actually, in 2013, when he retired, Mr. Emkes was the commissioner of finance and administration for the state of Tennessee. John R. Pram Jr. is the guy up in the corner with the blue tie. He has been on the board since 2001. The guy down below is Charles L. Overby, on the board since 2001. And you may know him from his work in the newspaper business because it's important. Now, the next gentleman we have here is Mr. Thurgood Marshall Jr. on the board since 2002. You may know him from his father, the famed Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. A well-respected lawyer in his own right, he served as the Director of Legislative Affairs to the Vice President Al Gore and as Cabinet Secretary to President Bill Clinton, a position that, according to his company biography, had him serving as a liaison between the president and the various executive agencies. And now he's making money off of children suffering. Then we have Annie Marchucci. She's the one with the shorter hair. She's been on the board since 2011. You may know her from her work at Del Webb Corporation, where she served as president. According to her bio, after the company merged with Pulte Homes, it became the nation's largest home building company. Below with the longer hair is Stacy Hayden, Hayden. On the board since 2016, you might know her from the Obama era, investigations into whatever the heck the U.S. Marshals were up to. In a previous life, she spent most of her professional life in the employ of the U.S. Marshal Service. She began with USMS in 1980 and was appointed by Bush 43 to serve as the Federal Detention Trustee, an office office established in 2001 and charged with overseeing all federal detentions operations. She became the head of USMS in 2011 via appointment by President Obama. When the office of the Federal Detention Trustee came under the auspices of the Marshals, she assumed control of that agency again. After she resigned in 2015, she joined CCA's board. Now we have Damon Henninger, and he was the previous chairman and president. He's the one that stepped down in 2026. And he's been on the board since 2009. He was named president and CEO in August of 2009. And he's held a government job. He hasn't held a government job before. In a previous life, he had a long history with CCA, where he began as a corrections officer in 1992 at the Leavenworth Detention Center in Kansas. Over 20 years later, that same facility would become the subject of a really rough Inspector General investigation, specifically in relation to its USMS contract. By 2000, he worked his way to vice president, and business analysis, was appointed president and chief operating officer in July of 2008 and joined the board in 2009. Robert J. Dennis is on the board since 2013. Nothing real big about him. Donna M. Alvaredo, on the board since 2003. You may know her from once she was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense at the U.S. Department of Defense. She also served as counsel for Immigration and Refugee Policy Subcommittee of the U.S. Senate Committee of the Judiciary and a staff member for the U.S. House of Representatives Select Committee on Narcotics Abuse and Control. And now they're all making money off of the suffering of children and immigrants. Boy, you guys have come up in the world. Now, CoreCivic is not alone in this. The GEO Group is one of the other dominant players in private immigration detention. I'm going to be investigating and looking at them. They have the same model, same financial incentives. GEO swung from a $32.5 million loss to nearly a $30 million in profit in a single quarter, because when this administration became their best customer. Now, Urban Strategies, that's the one that's taking control of the pregnant girls for profit company running the San Benito shelter, are being held is a converted Baptist church, a house of God turned into a for-profit holding facility for traumatized children. The founder says the company is deeply committed to the care and well-being of the children we serve. Really? Then why aren't they in some place where they can actually get care? I don't know. The government's own officials told investigators otherwise. And then there is Camp East Montana. This is located on Fort Bliss, a United States Army base in El Paso, Texas, the largest ICE detention center in the country right now. It's a tent facility in Texas. Yeah, tents. The administration has held up as a model what they want to build everywhere. It is not CoreCivic. It is operated by a company called Acquisition Logistics LLC. This is a small Virginia corporation that, according to federal records, had no prior experience operating detention facilities. So when the government actually gave them the contract, it was worth $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion to a company with no experience to house thousands of human beings on a military base. ICE's own inspectors found at least 60 violations at the facility shortly after it opened. The facility had employed little more than half the security personnel it had promised. There was no policy on when or how the contractors could use force. There was no compliance manager to oversee SA allegations, a requirement under federal law. Contractors received only 40 hours of training. Sound familiar? Regular ICE agents require at least 42 days. Since December, at least 3 people have died at Camp East Montana. One of those deaths was ruled a homicide by El Paso County medical examiner. In 2025, 32 people have died in ICE custody, the deadliest year in over 2 decades as the detained population swells past 68,000. In the first weeks of 2026 alone, at least 6 more people have died. One of those deaths was ruled a homicide by the medical examiner. This is the one that was out there in El Paso. He was a Cuban man named Geraldo Lunas Campos, who begged for his asthma medication for days. He was dragged in shackles to an isolation unit and died after being physically restrained by detention staff. 6 fellow detainees have testified in sworn court statements that they heard him slammed against the walls, heard him gasp that he could not breathe, and then silence. ICE attributed his death to medical distress.
Medical distress.
Yeah.
Now, what is that? I mean,
I guess when you don't have your asthma medication, you're thrown against a wall and beat up. Yeah, you'd be distressed.
Did they not know what to call it, so they called it medical distress?
Yes. But the medical examiner has said it's homicide.
Huh.
Now, one of the witnesses actually was released not long ago, and he conveniently died in a car accident. I have questions. Why was he released? Was he alone in the car? What happened? I have questions. Now, over at that camp, there have been 13 measles cases have now been confirmed at the facility. 17 cases total across El Paso County this month. There have been sewage backups, inadequate meals, no reliable access to legal help. More than 45 detainees filed abuse allegations with attorneys, including a teenager who said the staff beat him, grabbed and crushed his genitals, and blocked the security cameras while it happened. So sexual violence against a minor in a facility operating on $1 billion federal contract. They had to take that kid to the hospital. That's how it got found out. So think about that. 24 members of Congress wrote a letter to Homeland Security, puppy killer Nome, demanding that the facility be shut down immediately. Her response: this is the best health care many aliens have received in their entire lives. Well, we would like you to have your health care done there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Acquisition Logistics has not responded to any press inquiries. So we don't know who's behind the company. I want to investigate. We do not know how a corporation with no detention experience walked away with $1 billion federal contract. I would.
Yeah, somebody's got to give them a chance, you know.
Do we have an Epstein connection here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, who represents El Paso, has visited the facility multiple times and called them incompetent and said they should be investigated. And we agree. There are questions that demand answers. A lot of questions. So as of January 1st, 2026, just 2 months ago, CoreCivic has a new CEO, and Mr. Swindle, this man who has spent his entire career analyzing and expanding the profitability of locking people up. As of this year, you're the face of CoreCivic. You are the name on the door. And what is happening inside Dilley is happening on your watch now. So we want you to know that. You know, the worms in the food, your watch. There was a young 18-year-old detainee, and she was doing her breakfast during Ramadan. This was on his watch. And while she was eating her breakfast, she took the fruit cup and she found somebody's fingernail in it. Yeah. The measles outbreak, your watch, Patrick. 11 emergency calls for children in medical distress, your watch. A 2-month-old baby choking in the dark with no doctor on staff, your watch. We see you, and we're not going away, just like the Epstein files. The Epstein files aren't going away, and this is not going away. And let's have an honest conversation here about this system. They call it detention by legal definition, meaning people have access to lawyers, to hearings, to a process. They have rights. But here's what's actually happening. The families do not know where their loved ones are. Detainees are not being given access to their attorneys. They are being transferred across state lines with no notice to attorneys or family. And if you have an attorney in Minneapolis and you end up in Texas, what, your attorney's supposed to drive down here for a 10-minute conversation? Courts are being ignored because courts have told them you cannot transfer these people or deport certain people, and they're doing it. They've deported people to third world countries that they don't belong to. And these are the issues that are happening. And we've had 2 federal judges now say within this last week that they're not supposed to be transferring people out of the country to places that they do not belong. But the administration made a deal with the island of Palau, which only has about 18,000 people on it. It's a very insular island. But they've agreed to take about 70 of the migrants for a price. We're paying for it in the millions. And they're going to put them to work. That's trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're trafficking people. A federal judge has ordered a child not to be transferred out of Minnesota, and ICE put her on a plane to Texas 20 minutes after that ruling. When a right cannot be exercised, it's not a right. When a legal framework exists on paper but not in practice, it's not framework, it's fiction. And the people running these facilities, CoreCivic, trading as CXW, GEO Group, Urban Strategics, Acquisition Logistics, they're getting rich while families are separated. Children are writing letters begging not to be forgotten. Detainees are dying in custody. So to Patrick Swindle and the leadership of CoreCivic, we know your name. We know you're in Brentwood, Tennessee. We know the ticker symbol is CXW. We know BlackRock and Vanguard hold your stock. And we're saying, on behalf of every person who believes that children should not be left to choke in the dark, that babies should not be treated as inventory in a detention pipeline, and that a straight line from Texas plantations to a for-profit prison in 2026 is not something this country should be proud of. We're watching. Changes need to happen. Not next quarter, not when the stock price dips, now, because these children cannot wait until your fiscal year ends. And there are parents who have never even made it to the facility. Hundreds of parents are being deported without their children. Some don't even know where their children are. I want you to think about that. Hey, Susie, glad you joined us. They don't even know where their children are. There was one young woman from Honduras. They deported her. She doesn't know where her kids are. Some were processed so fast, they had no time to even tell anyone they had children at home. The Women's Refugee Commission traveled to Honduras and interviewed parents arriving at La Lima Airport. Every single day, at least 300 migrants land there. They found dozens of parents who were deported without their children, without being asked if they even had children, without being given the opportunity to bring them. One woman said, they didn't ask me anything. They didn't talk to me. They just yelled at me to humiliate me. And they never told me, you have a daughter, you can bring her. Another was detained while dropping her disabled son off at school. She was deported before he came home. She says, he doesn't even know that I was deported. More than 30 children in 7 states have entered foster care after their parents were deported. And that number is going to be just a fraction of the real total. because there's no national database tracking where these children end up when their parents vanish. I saw one family that they grabbed the dad and left 2 little kids sitting in the truck. Fortunately, there happened to be some people on the street that went and got the kids. And last year, or the administration before, when they were first back in office in 2016, they got elected, 2,700 kids got separated from their parents during that first term. More than 1,300 have still not been reunited. 1,300 children are still separated from their families. So I guess we're trafficking in children these days. The lead doctor from Physicians for Human Rights said, we're going to have a generation of children who are deeply, deeply traumatized. This is what's happening in the U.S. in 2026 in your name, because this administration has told all of us that this is what we wanted. Did you want this? I don't think anybody did. What happened to, we're only going to get the worst of the worst? Yeah, that didn't last, did it? But let's talk about, we have some missing people. We want to cover those. And remember, when you're out and about, those babies, when they were interviewed, ProPublica, you were great. Mother Jones has done some fabulous reporting on these issues. Some of my sources that I've been getting information from. So it's out there. We just have to keep searching and keep telling the stories. But for our missing people, remember, when you're out and about, please put the cell phone down. Look at faces. Remember faces. Stay alert in our community on any public transportation, because some people might leave voluntarily, but then they get in a situation where they can't get home because there's danger. We also know human trafficking is real. Missing people's cases happen everywhere. Many times victims go unnoticed and they're hiding in plain sight. Trust your instincts. If something feels off and it's suspicious, contact the authorities. The worst they can do is tell you, no, it was okay. But don't assume someone else is going to call. You do it. You can also contact us at tips4trialjunkiesunited@gmail.com if you're afraid of the cops. We'll pass it on. But you have the power to save a life. This is Elias Alvarez. He's 13. He's been missing since February 20th. From Denver, Colorado. He went missing at 4:15. Very specific. He was last seen in the area of West 13th Avenue and Lowell Boulevard. The tribal affiliation is Ogallala Sioux tribe. He has brown eyes, brown hair. He's 5'11" and weighs 180 pounds. He was last seen wearing a black hoodie with a large white cross on the back, blue jeans, and black shoes, carrying a white Nike bag. Contact the Denver Police Department at 720-913-2000 if you think you've seen Elias. Our next one is Mason Cree. He's 16. He's been missing since February 20th from Turtle Mountain Reservation in North Dakota. He's 5'9". He weighs 190 pounds. His eyes are brown and his hair is brown. Please contact the BIA of Turtle Mountain Agency at 701-477-6134. And then we have Shada Lara Quiver. He's 17. He's been missing since February 22nd and from Missoula County, Montana. Montana. He's got brown eyes and brown hair, 5'6", weighs 160 pounds. Please contact the sheriff there in Missoula at 406-258-3452. Let's get these boys found. They need to come home. So you might ask, what can we do? We've heard the statistics, but what can we do about it? Well, share this episode. Right now, without hesitation, post about Maria Antonio. Post about Juan Nicholas. Post about Gustav. Tag your friends. Use your platform, whether it's 2 followers or 2,000. These children cannot speak for themselves outside those walls. We can. A 9-year-old drawing pictures of herself in a government ID badge, asking to go home, deserves to be seen. Make sure she is. I mean, this is the Dilley Center. They have them in different colored sweatshirts like it's the Squid Games or something. These people are messing with them mentally. Second, there is the Refugee Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services. This is the only legal aid organization that regularly works on site at Dilley. They are in there. They need support. Find them at raicestexas.org. Third, like I said, the social media. Let's get it out there, because eventually we're going to hear horror stories, because some of these people are being put back into camps or back into countries that they fled because of danger. So every person that was actually going through the system and doing everything correctly, and they were taken, if they lose their life, it's on all these people. It's on their, and one day there will be an accounting. Tag your friends, use your platforms. Another thing we can do is, like I said, check if you do have a portfolio, or if you have family members that have one. Find out if they're dealing in stocks with CoreCivic, because they got some answering to do. If you're making money off the suffering of children, something's wrong with you. I'm sorry. Something is wrong with you. Maria Antonio Guarda Montoya got out after 4 months in Dilleylandia, she called it. She and her mama were sent back to Colombia, and a few days later, someone actually shared a video. It showed Maria Antonio in pink leggings and a t-shirt with a teddy bear on it running toward her school. One of her teachers led her by the hand into the classroom. She says, "Look who I brought you." Her best friend leapt out of the desk and threw her arms around her. She was finally home. But Gustav, he's still in Dilley, the last we found. And the twins from the Solman family, who have now spent over 20% of their entire lives inside Dilley, they're still there. Juan Nicholas, the 2-month-old, sick, he was deported. He's over the border. There is a reporter that she's staying on the story, and that is awesome. The Converted Baptist Church in San Benito, Texas, a 13-year-old girl who was SA and pregnant, being held in a facility that the government's own officials say is one complicated pregnancy away from a catastrophe. We don't get to look away. We're the ones that they are asking us not to forget them, so don't. I don't use the term detention center. I use what it truly is. These are concentration camps. The definition of mass detention of civilians without trials based on group identity technically applies, because there's overcrowding, they're unsanitary, there's deaths in custody that have been documented. Scholars like historian Andrei Putzer note that the term predators, the Holocaust, and has broader historical usage. Conditions in many facilities are genuinely dangerous and inhumane. Deaths, medical neglect, and abuse have been documented by the DHS, the Inspector General. Journalists and children have been separated from families and held in inadequate facilities. Private contractors like CoreCivic operate many of these facilities under the same profit-driven logic. Bauer, the journalist, described bottom line: whether you use the term or not, the documented conditions in many immigration detention facilities represent a serious human rights concern that demand accountability. Every predator depends on your silence, you guys. Please don't give it to them. If you know something, speak up. Because it wasn't a mannequin. It never is. And one thing that they recently, someone had put out, is that the ICE has filed under the Navy for things for them. And it's actually not even a new contract they're using. It's an old contract that was updated to try and hide it. But what they're asking for in the new ICE facilities, because they're going to be taking over warehouses soon, and warehouses aren't built to hold people. I'm going to be digging into more of it. But the one thing that they hid under medical was they're asking for, my brain just went mush. They're asking for the things where, Doc, what's it called when you have one of those things where you burn stuff up?
Incinerator?
Yes, they want incinerators in the new ICE facilities. Why? Are they going to hide the bodies?
Yeah.
I mean, we have to ask, why are they asking for incinerators now? That's scary. I'm scared.
It almost sounds familiar.
Yeah. Kind of like Nazi Germany. Because they didn't start out with the gas chambers. They started out with detention. They started out with fences. They led up to gas chambers. In the US, we have had a history. We did internment camps with the Japanese people. It didn't matter where your loyalty lied. If you were Japanese American, they put you in an internment camp. Many suffered. Many were abused. It took 40 years before the US ever apologized. Kind of late, but yeah, they made an apology. With Nazi Germany and what happened with over 6 million that ended up going to the gas chambers, everybody said it wouldn't happen again. We have to ask, is it going to happen again? Is this what we're leaning toward?
Yeah, happening not even 100 years later.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we have to ask, where are those people that were in Alligator Alcatraz? Hundreds are missing. Where are they? Where have you sent these people? If you've deported them, what countries have they gone to? Because some of the countries they've made deals with, like Libya, actually has slave markets. These are things we have to be aware of. So remember, predators count on communities to look away. And these are predators because they're preying on innocence. But we won't. Someone knows something. Someone always does. And we know silence is betrayal. So we're going to keep telling the stories. We're not going to stop talking about Epstein, but we're also not going to stop talking about this. Because this is being done by using the people here in the US saying this is what we wanted. Nobody wanted this. Nobody asked for this. Because eventually, and they are already starting, they're looking at others to put into these camps. Because their next objective, I did get a piece of documentation and I got to dig deeper. They're going to go after the homeless. Yeah, think about that. Well, the homeless aren't exactly migrants. Most of them are US citizens. A lot of them are veterans. So see, that's why every time people say, well, it's not my problem because I'm not brown, I'm not black. But when will you become other? Because as long as this keeps going on and as long as everybody looks the other way, eventually they will start looking for other. Because in Nazi Germany, they didn't start or they didn't end with just the Jewish people. They went after others. They went after the gypsies. They went after the Jews. They went after the gypsies. They went after Jehovah's Witnesses. They went after homosexuals. Anybody that they considered other.
Yeah, where lavender grows, you're right. The incentive is money, and it's going to keep on growing. The problem will keep on growing as long as people are making money off of it. Exactly.
And so, well, Cap, you're right. Veterans should not be homeless, but some of them can't handle being inside. Just like we've talked about some some people that have been SA'd in youth in the Native community with the residential schools. They can't be inside. They can't handle it. But see, what they're going to try and do with the homeless is they're going to say, well, we're going to put them in a facility to give them care. You're going to force care on people? That's not freedom. That's not what veterans fought for. I mean, these are questions we have to ask. These are things we have to look at. They're ugly. And I know right now the world's all topsy-turvy. But we as a community, we come together. We talk about these things. We get it out there. We let the voices be heard. And hope one day somebody with sense will say, hey, enough is enough. But we love you guys. We appreciate you guys coming to hang out with us, to be part of our community. You know, it means a lot to us. I know the girls put on our Discord server, and we also have a Facebook page. Please come hang out with us. We're on social media. If you look at our description, we have a link tree. Hang out with us. If you have story ideas or information you want to share, trialjunkiesunited@gmail.com. Doc, do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah. Good night, Doc.
I love you, baby. But we love you guys. And remember, these criminals, and they are criminals, they're never going to stop, and neither do we. Silence is betrayal. We're going to see you on Thursday. That's the night that we always do our Native and Indigenous stories. So next time, come hang out with us. And remember, just keep looking for justice. Keep fighting for it, you guys. We love you. And I wrote a song, of course, so please listen to it. Let me know your thoughts. Love you. Bye.
It started with fences. It's necessary. Then Germany burned 6 million souls. And when the smoke cleared, every nation swore, never again. America signed that oath and turned around and built camps for the Japanese on our own soil, and now we're doing it again. Ooh-wee. The world bore witness to the smoke and the ash. 6 million reasons we swore off the past. Never again. We carved it in stone, but America had her own shame to face. Executive order, they came for the Japanese. Didn't matter your loyalty, didn't matter your name. If your eyes look like the enemy, you bore the blame. Japanese Americans were tagged and loaded on the trains, while their neighbors watched and said nothing again. 120,000 souls behind the wire, called it necessary, like we always do for national security. The excuse that gets us through, but a prison by any other name is still a cage, and a child behind wires still a stolen age. Who is responsible? Say their names out loud. Who is responsible when the innocent crowd is put in cells without beds, without food, without care? When a baby gets sick and no one's there, you deport them half dead so they don't die on your watch. Your hands are stained and the stain won't come off. Who is responsible? From Mexico and Honduras, Guatemala and El Salvador, from Venezuela and Colombia and beyond our shores, children with nothing and nowhere to go. Concrete floors, rotten food, cold, empty walls. Some have their parents but can't shield them from harm. No words for the terror, so they draw what they feel. Guards take the pencils, they can't let it get real. But we are the witnesses and the whole world will know too. You call it detention, give it a different name. Put it in a building, a cage is a cage. What 5-year-old criminal earned his fate? Tell me who signed off and who opened that gate. Who is responsible? Say the names out loud. Who is responsible when the slept on clean, comfortable sheets while children counted the cracks in the concrete. No medical care, they said, not our concern, till the camera showed up and the headlines started burning. You knew, don't lie, you knew from day one that suffering is profitable when oversight's gone. Germany said never again. America said never again. Texas, Florida, now when does never again really mean never again? They thought no one was watching, but we are the witnesses. A child in a cage is a child in a cage, and someone built that cage. In Germany had Nuremberg, Japanese Americans received an apology 40 years too late. These children are waiting right now. Who is responsible? Who will be held accountable this time? The world drew the line in Germany's sand, then America crossed it with her own hand. Not once but twice on American soil, we memorized the history and passed all the tests, but a lesson you don't live is a lesson unlearned at best. So I'm asking every witness, every CEO, every soul who watched and let it go. And your grandchildren ask you what you did that day, what exactly will you say? Who is responsible? We know your names. Who is responsible? History won't forget the shame. For every child who had no bed, no food, no voice. For every death you could have stopped, that was a choice. You built the system, signed the checks, and looked the other way. We are the record, and we will not let you forget this day. Germany said never again. America said never again. Are you saying it now, or are you staying silent? Because silence allows this to continue. It also allows this to grow. A child in a cage is waiting. Please, could you make sure the whole world knows? Please, could you make sure the whole world knows?